Hey everyone, it has been a while, but I want to make a video about the Fantastic Four, more specifically in context of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Guardians of the Galaxy came out recently, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and it is fantastic. It does, however, draw quite a lot on material and characters from the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four #1 is often referred to as the birth of the Marvel Universe. There are canonical works that would later be brought in that were released prior to Fantastic Four #1, like the titular Marvel Comics comic book and Captain America would later be retconned back into Marvel history with Avengers #4. But the interconnected nature of the Marvel mythology as we know it spawned in the pages of Fantastic Four. For all intents and purposes, Fantastic Four is the birth of the Marvel Universe. Fantastic Four also introduced the Marvel hero, and by that I don't mean like literally the Marvel superhero, I mean the Marvel hero archetype. Somebody who is deeply flawed and makes mistakes and has room to grow. Somebody with vulnerabilities and imperfect lives and internal conflicts. Like, it was the birth of the Marvel age. Hey guy, come here. Okay, come here. I worked really hard on the thumbnail for this. It was the first and most time-consuming part of this video production. So, leave me a fat little like, huh? Why don't you leave me a juicy little like down there, huh? Why don't you do that for me, huh? BB? Huh? Please? BB? Like? Subscribe? Huh? Would you do that for me? It's for me? Your guy? Your favorite guy? Do that for me? In the 90s, Marvel filed for bankruptcy and had to sell their most popular characters, blah, blah, blah. You've heard it 1,000 times. I'm not going to repeat the story here. Every video essay on the planet that references anything that happened to Marvel or around Marvel at this time or after this time seems to mention this in great detail. Suffice it to say, Marvel hit bankruptcy and had to sell their most popular characters: Hulk, X-Men, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, etc. Fast forward a few years, and Marvel wants to make their own universe of interconnected movies. Uh-oh, all we have is D-listers like Captain America and Iron Man and Thor, who are extremely influential and important characters within the context of the Marvel Universe and the comic books. But they are D-listers at this time. Nobody knows of, really, or cares about Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, etc. on a wider cultural level. You have Spider-Man, Hulk, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Daredevil, who are part of like the zeitgeist because they got movies, and they got movies because people cared about these characters, because they had cartoons and shows and they were already popular for decades prior. But these characters, and it is maybe the most impressive part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, were made into A-listers by virtue of the strength of their films. I mean, the Avengers are literally a team of characters who couldn't sell their own books. Look it up. Before the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Spider-Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, these were the Marvel Universe. Like, these are what people thought of and associated with Marvel. These are Marvel, as far as the public is concerned. Right, so fair enough, you're building a universe out of D-listers. Thankfully, these D-listers also happen to be created by, like, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, so they're deeply, like, interesting characters and have been expanded on over decades and decades of history. Woof. But you want to expand your universe beyond these characters and explore things like the cosmos. You want to explore the mythology and expand your world. Unfortunately, most of that world was created in the pages of Fantastic Four. You run into a problem where Fox owns half your universe. Ignoring Spider-Man and even the X-Men, half of your universe on a cosmic or mythological level is tied up with the Fantastic Four property. At That's where the legal nebulousness comes in. You can use these characters and concepts to some capacity as long as you don't tie them too hard to the original work. You can use the scrolls, but you can't use specific scrolls, like Super Scroll, for instance, or Lilandra. Sorry, not Lilandra. The Scroll Queen, whose name escapes me at the time. You can use the Kree, who are another extremely important part of the Marvel Universe, but you can't use specific Kree. Well, we can use Ronan the Accuser, because you can argue that he shows up in other stuff. You just can't make it too Ronan the Accuser. And you run into a similar problem with the MCU Spider-Man, where they sort of dance around mutually owned contractual licenses, like Harry Osborn and stuff like that, to kind of escape freezing those assets legally. My problem is, once you take and take and take, you diminish the Fantastic Four, you diminish the property from which you draw. If you take over and over and over and over again, you grab this and that and this and that and these things from something that already exists. By the time you get around to actually using the original thing from which all this material you grabbed is drawn, you have a diminished product. You've taken away things from something that is pure and whole. Ultimately, you diminish the Fantastic Four as a property, as a series. I honestly believe the Fantastic Four have more potential for greatness than almost any other comic book franchise or property ever. There's just so much you can do. There's nothing the Fantastic Four haven't done or could do. There's no setting in which they don't fit. They go through time and space. They do this and they do that. They go through other dimensions and realities. So much of modern, comic books and pop culture come from the Fantastic Four. It's extremely influential. But you have limited the potential of what you can do within that series still. Because while you have Galactus and Silver Surfer and Doctor Doom and Mole Man and all these things, you've also taken away and given to other things. Namor, the Inhumans, Kang the Conqueror, all these important Fantastic Four characters and concepts that you would be able to play with within that series, and you've taken them and you've given them to other things. You've emptied the cup of water into other tanks to some capacity. Always remember to charge your camera battery after a long shoot, folks. I mean, my point is exemplified by this. The previous 3 Marvel films have been about Fantastic Four villains and characters, and we still don't even have a Fantastic Four in our Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is fine. That's part of what makes Marvel Marvel, but it's really sad when most people don't know that it's even from Fantastic Four and it doesn't involve Fantastic Four in any way. It's just ripped from them without acknowledgement or credit or involvement. And so by the time the Fantastic Four comes around, these things are no longer part of their mythos within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's really sad to me. I don't claim this to be an extensive list, but the idea of the video spawned because I was talking to my friends, and because I have those apparently. I was talking to my friends, and I just wrote a list of characters I could think of off the top of my head on my phone. Characters, concepts, and places, if you like, that are from Fantastic Four and have been reappropriated. So again, I don't claim this to be extensive, but this is every instance I can think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe ripping Fantastic Four. So Ronan the Accuser was the villain from the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, and he first appeared in Fantastic Four number 65. The Kree were also introduced in the same issue, FF number 65, and are the race from which Ronan hails and are also the main antagonists in the Captain Marvel film from 2019. Also in Captain Marvel, as well as Spider-Man Far From Home, and the villains of the upcoming Secret Invasion are the Skrull. First appearing in Fantastic Four number 2, they are so fundamentally FF that they appear before the costumes and Doctor Doom. They appear when the Fantastic Four are still wearing street clothes to try to not advertise and differentiate themselves from DC characters so that Marvel wouldn't be sued or whatever. Doctor Doom doesn't appear until issue number 5. Wild. The Skrulls are basically the first real villain the Fantastic Four ever fight. Fantastic Four #1 is even is barely comprehensible. It's just like a bunch of random nonsense. You get the origin, which is fine and great, but it's so like not the thing that you know. It's wild. It's just random nonsense. The city they're in isn't even New York yet. It's called Central City. Fantastic Four #2, the very next issue, they're still wearing street clothes, and they're fighting the Skrulls, their very first real adversaries. And then, all the way over in Fantastic Four #5, you have costumes in Doctor Doom. Like, the Skrulls are so Fantastic Four, it hurts. Appearing in both Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and starring in the What If show on Disney Plus is the Watcher Uatu / the Watchers, plural. A species vowed to observe but never interfere in the A species vowed to observe but never interfere in the events of the cosmos. First appeared in Fantastic Four issue #13, and later in issue 48, breaking his sacred vow to aid the Fantastic Four to prevent Galactus, the World Eater god, from consuming Earth. Galactus is another FF villain you can probably expect to see in the Marvel Cinematic Universe going forward. The TVA, the main driver behind the Loki series, while not appearing in Fantastic Four first, find themselves at odds with the team and most closely associated with them as opposed to other Marvel characters. I believe they first appeared in an issue of like Walt Simonson Thor, but they're rarely ever Thor villains. They're usually fucking around with the FF and She-Hulk, who is also a member of the FF. Before they were a terrible TV show, the Inhumans were first found in the pages of FF #45. The Inhumans are longtime friends of the FF, Medusa and Crystal both having been members of the FF. Crystal was the first true love of the Human Torch, and Black Bolt would form the Illuminati with Reed Richards. The fictional nation of Wakanda, as well as its king, the Black Panther, first appear in the pages of FF #52. Black Panther is probably the most popular FF character to join the MCU by quite a significant margin. And by that I mean like in his own movie, as his own franchise. The Black Panther has sort of become his own property and franchise in and of himself. But make no mistake, T'Challa as well as his nation are quintessentially Fantastic Four, and I think appear in every Fantastic Four cartoon adaptation ever. While predating the Fantastic Four technically, Namor is quintessentially and inextricably Fantastic Four. Making his return in FF #4, Namor is a character who falls comfortably under the FF license, including Namorita, who's also legally held up under the Fantastic Four license. Like, so FF is Namor, that despite the fact that he didn't originally appear in an FF comic, to make a Namor movie or TV show or whatever, you have to own the license for Fantastic Four. That's how, like, infinitely tied into the FF Namor is. Kang, the villain for Ant-Man 3 Quantumania in the upcoming Kang Dynasty, unless things change, first appeared under the name Roma Tut in FF #19. He's a longtime villain of the FF, and born under the name Nathaniel Richards, being a 31st century descendant of Reed Richards himself. In fitting with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the High Evolutionary is someone with whom the Fantastic Four find themselves at odds often. They even once teamed up with the High Evolutionary to stop Galactus from consuming Counter-Earth, but find themselves being the adversary of the High Evolutionary far more often than they find themselves on the same team. The Illuminati was created in the fallout of the Kree-Skrull War, whose founding members were Iron Man, Black Bolt, Mr. Fantastic, Professor X, Namor, and Doctor Strange. Their first meeting was held in secret at Black Panther's palace in Wakanda, and he would later join the group, making him the fourth Fantastic Four character to join the Illuminati. So not only is the Illuminati formed from the fallout of something that comes from the pages of Fantastic Four in the Kree and the Skrull coming to war in Avengers and the Kree-Skrull War conflict. Half of the founding members of the team are Fantastic Four characters, and their first meeting was held and hosted by another Fantastic Four character. First appearing in Ultimate Fantastic Four number 21, the Marvel Zombies exist in a parallel world, Earth 2149, and lure the Reed Richards of Earth 1610, the Ultimate Universe, into their own reality when Mr. Fantastic of Earth 2149 tricks Ultimate Reed into opening a doorway between their universes in a bid to spread their affection across the multiverse. I believe the Zombie Fantastic Four were going under the name the Frightful Four at this time, in a weird homage to their former adversaries. The Quantum Realm, known in the comics as the Microverse, for legal reasons, because they didn't yet have the FF license, had to name it the Quantum Realm when they introduced it in Ant-Man 2015, as they would not acquire the Fox license for another 2 years. Made its first proper appearance in FF number 19 and was alluded to in Fantastic Four number 10 when Doctor Doom shrinks himself into what he thought was nothingness, but it was actually the Quantum Realm. Agatha Harkness, the main villain in WandaVision and the star of the upcoming Disney Plus solo series for some reason, first appears in Fantastic Four number 94. Agatha, of course, would go on to be the mentor of the Scarlet Witch. Adam Warlock, a major character along with the High Evolutionary in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, finds his roots in Fantastic Four number 66 and 67 in a two-parter called The Power of Him. He was a sort of deified figure at the time. That's why they used a weird pronoun game to describe him. The Nova Corps, showing up in Guardians of the Galaxy 2014 to be super lame and totally useless when compared to their comic book counterparts, originate in Fantastic Four number 205 back in April of '79. Marvel had the rather unenviable position of having sold the property under which half of their universe was created, which made it hard to create a cinematic universe from the ground up without taking influence from that property, the Fantastic Four. So again, I'm not calling out the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It would have been very, very impossible even to make a fully fleshed out Marvel Universe without taking a lot of things that originated in Fantastic Four, purely because the Fantastic Four is responsible for so much of what we think of as Marvel and even comic books. Even She-Hulk was one of the longest serving members of the Fantastic Four. She is quintessential Fantastic Four and considered alongside Peter Parker and Crystal of the Inhumans to be like a proper part of their family, like proper loved ones. So if you wanted to be pedantic about it, you could argue that She-Hulk is also a Fantastic Four character, because she probably appears in more issues of Fantastic Four than she ever does in Hulk or a solo title. I just thought it was pretty wild how much the MCU had appropriated from the Fantastic Four already, and still they find themselves being the center of the next phase of Marvel movies. The Kang Dynasty is obviously predicated upon a Fantastic Four premise, as Kang is a Fantastic Four character. Secret Wars is, of course, a very Fantastic Four-centric event. The '89 Secret Wars, as well as the 2015 Secret Wars, which this movie presumably finds itself mostly reliant upon. Doom having been for the greater part, the villain of both series, but certainly finds himself being pretty much the main character alongside Reed Richards in the 2015 Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman. You also have Secret Invasion, the TV show, which is coming out this summer, which of course is based off concepts and characters from Fantastic Four. You have the Fantastic Four film coming out in 2025. Like, the next phase of Marvel movies is so Fantastic Four heavy, and I am ready for it. The FF have gotten a lot of love in the Marvel Cinematic Universe so far by proxy. Reed Richards himself even shows up in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, as well as along with his Illuminati. But it is sort of sad to see all of these characters and concepts that will never be the center of their own Fantastic Four movie. A lot of the greatness that the Fantastic Four could rise to are taken away, by the fact that you appropriate these concepts and rip them away and put them in their own things. Now, you could argue that the Fantastic Four is so expansive that they probably would have never gotten around to doing all of these things anyway, and maybe that's true, but if the Fantastic Four are the Avengers, basically, going forward, and the universe is going to be largely centered around them rather than the Avengers, it does make it a little sad, because there's a lot of stuff you can't do under FF that you would have been able to do previously. Of course, like, the Fantastic Four are so vast and expansive in their creative power in terms of, like, what Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were able to do, and what writers have been able to do since, going all the way from John Byrne to Dan Slott presently. Like, there's so much Fantastic Four stuff to do. There's the Mole Man, there's the Silver Surfer, Doctor Doom, Galactus, the Puppet Master, Super Skrull, Annihilus, the Negative Zone. Like, of course, these are all things you can still do. But there's a lot that, unfortunately, is gone.
Stop acting like you know the way ahead, like you know the rules. There are no rules, man. We're lost.
No.
Ronan the Accuser's dead, for instance.
Lost.
Hopefully the High Evolutionary isn't dead. Hopefully he's
Lost.
and he can come the blows with the Fantastic Four in the future. But unfortunately, a lot of these concepts and characters are kind of burned in one-offs and are likely
Lost.
Thanks for listening to my nerdy-ass rant about the world's greatest super team. If you enjoy the video, just let me know. I'll make more similar concepts about obscure nerd shit that I personally have a grudge with and want to ramble about into camera for way too long. Dude, if this new Fantastic Four movie isn't incredible, I'm actually gonna cry. I cannot have a fifth terrible Fantastic Four movie. Do you understand me? I cannot go through this again. This is the last chance to make it right. You had the 90s Fantastic Four movie. You had 2005. You had 2007. We don't talk about 2015. And now you have this. And if it's bad, I'm going to be
Lost.
And I may never recover emotionally.